To triple captain or not to triple captain? That is the question.
Captain's Pick, the FPL Podcast.
Hello and welcome on board flight episode 33 of Captain's Pick, the FPL Podcast. This is your captain and host speaking, Geoff at Willis, and each week I'll be taking flight to talk fantasy Premier League football. You can find the show on a whole host of podcast services. Just search Captain's Pick. Please leave a review, like, share and subscribe. On today's show, I'll give a quick review of my Bench Boost Game Week 35, talk transfers and discuss possible triple captaincy for Game Week 36. But first, as ever, a quick shout out to the half-season Community League, which started scoring back in Game Week 20 and was set up to raise money and awareness for Cancer Research UK. There's about a 60-point difference now between 10 and 1st, so I think the eventual winner's probably going to be coming from maybe the top 5 places. Second place, Carl Gall, who got 112 points game week. He was on Bench Boost and is on a total of 1,028 points. And in first place for the third week in a row now, Tom Dunmassey with 120 points and has opened up a 19-point lead over Kyle. So looking very good for Tom to win that £50 Amazon gift voucher. Okay, so going to briefly look over Game Week 35, my Bench Boost. And I was in the 100 club for the second time again this year. Well, I did take a -4 points hit. So net-wise, I suppose it would be 96 points. But in terms of the game week, I did score 100 points. Couldn't have gone too much better, to be honest. Captaincy wasn't great. Aguero just got an assist, so 7 times 2, so 14 points coming from him. But don't think too many of the captain's choices out there delivered too much. My best players were Delafeu, who got a brace, got 17 points. Doherty, who got a clean sheet and goal. Assists coming from Sterling and Son. Clean sheets coming for both my Brighton defenders, Duffy and Dunk, so I'm glad I kept them in the squad. It could have been another 25-30 points if it wasn't for those 2 last-minute goals on Tuesday night when Southampton conceded in the 90th odd minute and Brighton conceded, I think, in the 89th minute. If I would have been on for double defence clean sheets there and bonus points, probably would have been another 25-30 points. So would have been on about 130, but can't complain. It's kind of the game week you want on a bench boost. And so the game week rank for me was 191k. The average points was 67, so got over 30 odd points on top of that. And that left me on overall points 2,031. And I jumped up in rank about 54,000 places, so I'm now at 189k. And so looking at my target of getting inside the top 100k, I've got 3 game weeks left to do it now. Still possible, I think, especially because I've got the triple captaincy chip left. And my team's pretty well set up for the next 3 games after wildcarding 2 game weeks ago. So it's a possibility, but I'm still going to have to get some plus 60 points game weeks in the next 3 weeks to get into that 100k. That still may not be enough, but we live in hope. So that was my game week 35 bench boost performance. Very, very happy with that. And couldn't have gone too much better, really. And so looking at game week 36, sort of speeding through this quite a bit because there is a Friday night game. So I'm recording this at 5 o'clock. Wanted to wait for all the press conference news and team news, that sorts of thing. The deadline is at 7 o'clock, so literally by the time I get this out, you have about an hour and a half to listen to this and get all the latest information out. So yeah, it's 7 o'clock tonight. I'll remind you again at the end of the pod, but I'll keep it very brief. So my squad going into game week 36, bit of a choice between Gunn of Southampton and Foster, who have got from Watford Wolves at home for my goalkeeper choice. Think I'm going to go Southampton at home. I fancy Wolves to probably score away at Watford, so Gunn gets the shout. Robertson at home to Huddersfield. Got to obviously start him there. Clean sheet, assist, goal, for everything there. Doherty scored in the last match. I've got to start him away to Watford. And I'll be playing Duffy at home to Newcastle. I think Brighton probably only need a point to stay up. So I think they could get that. They'll even play for like a 0-0 draw, try and nick a goal. I was tempted potentially to play both my Brighton defenders, but I think I'll just play the one. In midfield, I have Deulofeu after his brace last week. Got to start him again. I've got a Son, who the vice captaincy on at the moment. West Ham at home. Son I think will definitely play. Misses the first leg in the Champions League next week, so I think he'll definitely play in the next couple of Premier League games. I have Sterling, who Man City have got Burnley away. Burnley have been a lot better recently, but I still fancy City to do well in that match. The captaincy is currently on him. And I have De Bruyne, but he's injured, so he'll be getting transferred out. More on that in a minute. And then up front, Jimenez, Watford away. I fancy Jimenez to score. Bit disappointing he didn't do too much during the Bench Boost double game week. Might fancy him to get back on the score sheet this week. Aguero, Burnley away again. Aguero, you never know, could easily score a hat-trick there. And Wilson, who I thought about potentially transferring out, but he after a dodgy game week last week, the week before did so well. Southampton away, he could definitely score brace in that match. You just never know with Bournemouth, so inconsistent as with Wilson. But probably his last game week in my side. Bournemouth have Spurs at home next week, so I'm potentially transferring him out next week for a Man United player. On my bench, I have currently Foster in goal, the Ward-Prowse and Bednarek of Southampton, and Dunk of Brighton. So in terms of my transfers then, I'm looking at bringing in Mane of Liverpool. They have Huddersfield at home. Sort of a dream fixture, really. Don't think Klopp will rest any players. I think he'll probably play a full-strength side. You've got to think they could win that 4-5-0 comfortably. Whether they go 2 or 3 goals up early and start bringing players off, that's a potential for that. I can afford to bring in Mane with no hits or anything like that and still have cash in the bank to transfer potentially Wilson out next week for Rashford potentially. I could bring in Salah, but I'd have to take a hit elsewhere, and whoever I think of taking out, potentially Deulofeu, but I think he could do well. Potentially Wilson, you never know with him. Likewise Aguero. I could take out Sterling, but after that Fraser disaster a few weeks ago, I'm just really reluctant to take out anyone who's got a good potential of scoring points. De Bruyne hasn't got that because he's injured, he's out. And so I think Mane is probably the man to come in to transfer in, just as my 1 free transfer. And then in terms of captaincy, I'd be tempted to captain Mane if I bring him in for De Bruyne. Sterling is currently on him. I could put it on Aguero. I could put it on Son. I think this is going to go to the wire, to the deadline of who I pick. I've also got my triple captaincy chip, so I if I brought in Mane, I think he'd be a great option with triple captaincy. Home to Huddersfield. Son home to West Ham. Could be a good option there, a bit more of a differential, I'd say. I think a lot of people will go Mane or potentially Salah for captaincy or triple captaincy if they've got it left. Or even Sterling, triple captaincy away at Burnley. I think Burnley have got better recently, but I still think City could steamroll them. Or I could save my triple captaincy for next week. City of home to Leicester. There's going to be quite a few goals in that match. Or leave it to the last game of the season, game week 38. City away to Brighton. Again, Brighton could well be safe by that point. No Champions League for City. Got an FA Cup match the week after, but if the title's in the line, I fully expect them to play a full-strength side. So could use it on Sterling or Aguero in the last game week, and that would be a pretty exciting finish to the game week, to the season rather, having the triple captaincy go on the last game of the season. Could look for a big jump in overall rank and in my mini leagues on that final day of the season. So as you can see, I'm pretty unsure of what to do, of who to captain and who to even triple captain. I think it's going to go down to the wire, and just really in terms of trying to get into the top 100k, is it best to use it this week or say in the next couple of game weeks? Looking back at my season history, I was last in the top 100k in game week 19 when I was 89k. But I had about 7 red arrows in a row, and in game week 29 I'd fallen to 434k. So I've done pretty well in this sort of the last 6 game weeks with playing all bar one of my chips, and I've rose about 240,000 places in the last 6 game weeks. So I've done well from that point of view, and it'd be nice to try and get into that top 100k. But whether to play the triple captaincy game chip this game week or not, I just don't know. I'm not sure. But Mane, very good option. So is Salah. And even the City assets and Son from Spurs as well. Could even put it on a Liverpool defender. I think they could get a clean sheet and assist points, even maybe goal threat as well. So I'll post my team on my Twitter account at captainspickpod around the deadline. I think I'll definitely transfer in Mane for De Bruyne, and then it's just whether who I captain or triple captain is probably out of Mane and Sterling. If I would to captain Sterling, I think I would just captain him and not triple captain him, save the chip. If I was going to captain Mane, potentially I think I would triple captain him, but I just don't know, and it's very tight in my 2 main mini leagues. My rivals one team's got Sterling, one team's got Mane, so kind of sword and shield picks. Probably bringing in Mane is a bit of a shield pick in a way, but for one league, but a sword pick for the other. And Sterling is vice versa. So very tricky situation. Did consider taking a hit to try and bring in a differential, maybe Salah, but I just don't want to really relinquish any points at this stage. So I think that's my squad setup. Mane in for De Bruyne, and then just choose who I want to captain. Okay, so in this very brief, quick podcast, as I say, the deadline is coming up. I think that's where I'm going to land the show. A reminder that the Game Week 37 deadline is tonight, 7 p.m. So try and give this a quick listen to and check out any latest team news, press conference information, but from what I've read and seen, there's nothing too out of the ordinary, except that De Bruyne looks to be definitely out. Feel free to send in any questions or topics you'd like discussed on the show to either the podcast Twitter account at captainspickpod or the podcast email address captainspickpod@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening to this in-flight podcast. I've been your captain. Good luck with Game Week 36. And until next time, it's been my pleasure to talk with you.
Captain's Pick, the FPL Podcast.